me on it, I think Old Man Willow is a Huorn. I think he's a tree that's got about as entish as it could get and has a black heart.
So that wasn't actually in the Old Forest, and that wasn't actually Old Man Willow. That would be right in Fangorn's and Treebeard's home, I guess, right? Because that's a tree right there. So, but what he does do, so what they did is they removed Old Man Willow, and then I guess as a nod to fans, really ultimately, it kind of feels that way because he didn't need the scene. They put it in there for the extended editions, and Fangorn pretty much says what Tom Bombadil says to Old Man Willow. So that was their nod, but certainly it removes Old Man Willow as a separate character from Fangorn. So Michael, what do you think of them completely removing Old Man Willow from?
Right. Okay. So Old Man Willow's gone. Well, so you're going to remove the Old Forest. You're going to have to remove Old Man Willow. So just to remind our viewers, or if any viewers that haven't read the books, so Old Man Willow is a tree, one of the core or most important trees in the Old Forest, and through some kind of power that he has, he lures the hobbits to sleep around him, and then starts to swallow them up. Similarly to what you saw there, although a little more graphically in one sense, because like he's in the midst of I think Pippin is half in, half out of the tree. He's like eating Pippin essentially, or trapping him in the books. So it's a lot of he tries to drown Frodo with a root, like pushing him down, puts him to sleep, and pushes him underwater. And Frodo's in this dazed, dreamlike state, so doesn't even struggle. So it's a little bit of a drama, and Old Man Will is essentially trying to kill the hobbits, and then Tom Bombadil comes along and says many things, and a few of which were the lines that Jackson decided to use for coming out of Treebeard's mouth. So here's what I found interesting: there is a connection. I don't think Jackson already chose to take Old Man Willow out, so there's a connection though between what's going on in the Old Forest and what Fangorn describes as happening, what Treebeard describes as happening in Fangorn, which is, of course, named after him. He is both Fangorn and Treebeard. So he says, this is Treebeard, says in The Two Towers, he says, most of the trees are just trees, of course, but many are half awake. Some are quite wide awake, and a few are, getting entish. That is going on all the time. So just before I continue, he's pointing out that trees actually become Ents. Very interesting in light of the origin of the Ents that we know from the Silmarillion. So it'd be fun to talk about how that works.
Well, I don't think he says they become Ents. They become Entish.
Sure, but they're becoming more like there's a progression. They can clearly get closer and closer to Ents. Maybe
all they get
allies. Maybe all they get to is the Huorns, but which we talk about later on. Back to Treebeard. When that happens to a tree, you find that some have bad hearts. That sort of thing seems to spread. There used to be some very dangerous parts in this country. There are still some very black patches. Like the Old Forest away to the north, do you mean? Asked Mary. So Mary's remembering their encounter with Old Man Willow and the trees that didn't like them in the Old Forest. Aye, something like, but much worse. I do not doubt there is some shadow of the great darkness lying there still away north, and bad memories are handed down. But there are hollow dales in this land. That now Treebeard's talking about Fangorn. There are hollow dales in this land where the darkness has never been lifted, and the trees are older than I am. So you have a couple things going on there. Treebeard is pointing out that this darkness, it's the darkness that's actually the source of the evil and hatred, and he thinks that if, with whatever darkness Mary is talking about, that's no doubt left over from some of the great darkness, by the which I take to mean the great darkness of Morgoth in that time,
Mhm.
and then maybe carried on by the Witch King after the defeat. Agmar defeats the Cardolan and Arthedain and Rudauer, and so there's a reality, though, that they are related. So the darkness that's infecting the trees in the old forest is also happening in Fangorn. So the fact
Mhm.
that Jackson uses Fangorn trees to swallow the hobbits the way that Tolkien uses the old forest trees, namely Old Man Willow, to swallow hobbits, or try to, is it's consonant. It's I think it's appropriate in that regard. Now, obviously, you're right that he is also just referencing the books directly and giving an homage to for the Tolkien fans who recognize this. This wouldn't have meant anything to people that saw the movie, or the extended editions, I should say, and hadn't read the books, because they wouldn't have recognized the Easter egg, so to speak, referencing the old. But removing Old Man Willow, like the Old Forest, for me, removes a character that is essentially, if you ask me, if you push me on it, I think Old Man Willow's a Huorn. I think he's a tree that's got about as entish as it could get, and has a black heart, and so he dislikes and hates hobbits and min and other creatures like that. Ultimately, he's under the mastery of the lordship of the old forest that sits within Tom Bombadil, so he's not, he's able to be, hobbits are able to be easily saved from him. But we do. He's kind of like the focal point of that malice that we spoke about in last, with the last change about removing the old forest. He is
Mhm.
personified the anger of the old forest against the hobbits, basically, and another sign that the world is a dangerous place that we then lose by Jackson removing Old Man Willow, um, or transplanting him in one sense.
The one thing I think we miss, for me, the most, was this is the first part where Sam's resilience is really shown, because he's the only one of the hobbits not affected, or he's the one that comes out of it the most, right? He can stand up to it more so than Frodo could, more so than Merry or Pippin,
Why do
although
you
you
think
could
that
say,
is?
well, he's the one that says, Sam sat down and scratched his head and yawned like a cavern. He was worried the afternoon was getting late, and he thought the sudden sleepiness uncanny. There's more behind this than sun and warm air, he muttered to himself. I don't like this great big tree. I don't trust it. Hark at it singing about sleep now. This won't do at all. He pulled himself to his feet and staggered off to see what had become of the ponies. He found the two had wandered on a good way along the path and had just caught them and brought them back towards the others. When he heard two noises, one loud and the other soft, but very clear. One was the splash of something heavy falling in the water. The other was a noise like the snick of a lock when a door quietly closes fast. So he's the one. He saves Frodo. Uh, Two, he's the one that essentially he is he the one. Well, he's the one, I believe, that says let's try a fire. Yep. Um, and
Yes.
so he's the go getter. He's the one who's taking action. And we kind of miss that with him. I mean, maybe you could say they try to fix that with what does he say?
Have
Something to Aragorn, put your dukes up, Longshanks, or
have at you,
how
Longshanks.
that? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thanks. I don't remember. I don't see the movie enough to know. Uh, but yeah, so I missed that part of it. It's Sam's first moment to really shine, and it's done in more so than just standing up for a friend. It's done because he's able to not be put under by the spell of Old Man Willow, by the wiles, by the sleep that's been singing to him in a way through the trees. Right, that's what he says.
Right, right. I see it as his role as caretaker. Like, his job is to keep Frodo safe, and so, and he's also got a bit of a suspicious nature. Sam does, except with regard to elves. He besides elves, he is naturally suspicious. He is indeed, even in the book, suspicious of Aragorn, and he's suspicious
That's true. That's true.
of people at different points. And so, and it's his, his sort of cautious suspicion about everything and seen everything from the lens of, is this a danger to Frodo, that enables him to push through. But you're right, his
Yeah.
character and quality comes out
Yes.
in this scene. So
Yeah.
we do miss that as well when you remove Old Man Willow.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Old Man Willow is not a big villain.
No,
He's there for one scene in the book, and that's it.
I
And
think.
I'm sure about that, by the way, because someone did call me. Someone on our Discord called me on my comment that we never see, my throwaway comment that we never see Fatty Bulger again. And they pointed out that he made an appearance at the very end at the Scouring of the
In the
Shire.
prison, right?
He
Yeah, yeah.
comes
He
out
comes
of
out.
prison and he's thin and he's no
No, that's
longer he's which is a kind of callback. And Tolkien likes doing that. Like that happened to Bomber at one point too. He came out thinner than he came in.
hmm
I think it was I think it was the Woodhalls of the Elf King. But anyway,
Let's get into the questions then.
yep.
One, is it lore friendly to remove Old Man Willow?
Same yes as before. Same
Yeah,
yes as with the Old Forest.
I,
It's fine.
I,
You don't lose out on anything, any major element of the story.
yeah, agreed. Agreed. All right. So next question: does the change make for better cinema?
Again, he's a throwaway character. No one, they aren't going to care about him ever again, and he's not a core character to the book. So
This is
he's
boring.
kind of a setup, a ramp up to the Old Forest. I'm sorry, he's a ramp up to Fangorn, is what he
Yeah.
is, which is
This,
yeah. So I would
yeah.
say yeah, it makes for better cinema.
Yeah, I know. I hate to agree with you, but I do. I feel like I should be contrarian. This is so boring. I want to fight again about wizards battling in Northend.
Well, there's going to be
Right?
some changes we fight about, and some changes that are
Yeah,
easy.
I know.
We got
Does
hundreds
it
of
change?
these, man. We
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah. Here's the thing: is again, you have a lot more time if you're to do this with more movies or a longer TV show, and you could have essentially an entire episode dedicated to the Old Forest and Old Man Willow, and at the end of it you introduce Tom Bombadil, and then the next episode goes into that. So I think of that, and that to me is like, oh, that would have made for a better Lord of the Rings adaptation than this. But for the films, I can say yes, it does make for better cinema than adding it here. And okay, you can give a nod to the fans by putting it into Fangorn instead of here. And like you said, if pushed to it, then yeah, I would say Old Man Willow is closest to a Huorn than anything else. But I do. It's always a reluctant yes to me for something like this. I just wish I would see it. All right. So next question: does how much do you like the change? How much do you like the change of removing Old Man Willow? Now you were a 3 on removing the Old Forest, and you said that you couldn't have Old Man Willow if you already moved the Old Forest. But say that it would be possible. Let's try and not get bogged down that maybe there's a way to put Old Man Willow here, even though they don't have the whole Old Forest part of it. Um, what would you think? How much do you like the change? You said it was an even 3, right? Right smack down in the middle between 1 and 5.
Yeah, it was an even three because of for the reasons that you said. That I'm
Yeah.
not. It's not that I. If you're going to take something out to make better cinema, taking Old Man Willow out is fine. I think you lose something a little bit because you're losing the story, but you don't lose enough that it changes much. In this case, removing Old Man Willow is something more interesting than just removing the Old Forest. So I like it a little less. So I'm going with
Stealing my thunder.
2.8.
All right. Agreed. It's there's more lost, there's more character development lost. There's an interesting you start losing so much of the borders of the Shire and the danger around the Shire and a specific danger here. I'm going to go a little bit lower and I'm going to say 2.5. Though it made for better cinema, I still don't like the change because I still think it's
You
been
miss Old Man
done.
Willow a little bit. He doesn't miss you.
And no, he doesn't. He's got a black heart.
Indeed.